So I'll just quickly talk about, the modern business, give you an overview on, just a quick overview on Azure for those who are not really familiar with that platform. Tell you about some solutions that you can leverage, on Azure, and round it up at the end of the day. Why Microsoft? So businesses are becoming modern, and what can we term, or what can we define the modern business as? The modern business is essentially defined by how you grow. A modern business will grow efficiently. As a modern business, you need to, put solutions in place to safeguard your business. Of course, you're concerned about your customers. You want to increase your sales, you want to understand your customers. Essentially, you should be customer obsessed, because without customers, the business would cease to exist, right? And of course, as a modern business, you need to have the ability to, to be able to run your business anytime and anywhere, right? In this day and age, we have a lot of remote work. Ever since we entered the new age caused by the COVID pandemic, where a lot of folks had to adopt for their staff, working remotely from anywhere at any time. And the beauty of this also is that, your business may be seeking to expand into other markets outside of the country, in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa space, as well as in the Asia, and etc. Right? So you want to be able to make sure that you can possibly hire experts from any of these regions, and they'll be able to contribute what they need to do, or what they're hired for, to growing the business, and ensuring that the business is profitable. So let me just give you 3 quick benefits that as a business you can get from Azure. There's cost savings, there's scalability, and there's security and maintenance. Now, I'm going to be targeting just 4 or 5 areas that you can leverage with Azure, especially if you have such solutions in place. Solutions like having a backup solution, business continuity and disaster recovery, having a disaster recovery strategy in place, adopting security solutions to help better protect your on-premise workloads, as well as Azure Cloud. And scalability, in terms of you have solutions that you offer your end customers, right? You start with 20 customers today. Most likely, if everything is going fine and this is a solution that is well adopted by your existing and new customers, you scale up to about 500 users. So what you started with in terms of infrastructure to cater for 20 users may not be able to handle 500, 1,000, 2,000 user capacity. So you want a situation where you can easily scale, in fact, automating that scaling, when you have high increase in traffic or demand of your application resources, you want a situation whereby your solution can quickly scale to adapt to the demand in traffic or the demand in usage of your application. Because you don't want a situation where you have your solution and users are complaining. Fine, when you had your 20 users, everything was dandy, everything was working smoothly. But by the time you scale, you start seeing some performance issues. And this is because you have a lot of users concurrently trying to work with your application. And then you can imagine that when customers get frustrated and they're not getting the value that they are supposed to get from your solution, they most likely would want to look somewhere else for a solution that can effectively cater to their needs, right? So Microsoft Azure offers its users these three main benefits that I've mentioned, which is cost savings, scalability, security, and maintenance. So my next few slides will expatiate on that. Please, as we go on, if you have questions, you can just raise your hand or type them in the chat window. My colleague will call you, or you can just wait until the end of the session, and then I can take your questions. So let me give a brief overview of Azure. Azure is just simply a cloud computing service, provided by Microsoft. That's all. It's a cloud computing service provided by Microsoft, right? And Microsoft has very many data centers, around the world compared to the other competitors that they have. They have the highest numbers of data centers, which spreads from the North America, South America, to Asia, to Europe, Australia, and Africa, right? I mean, if you look at this page, you can see that there is only one there is only one region in the whole of Africa, and that is South Africa.
This him lady, she now referred me to.
Sorry? Was that a question, please? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, it was a mistake, sorry.
Okay. So, so I was saying that, the only region in Africa is South Africa. One would have thought that they would have established in Nigeria, but I mean, we all know the challenges we are facing as a country, in terms of power, in terms of security, right? So you would understand that these are some of the limiting factors that Microsoft has probably not chosen this region of Africa. But hopefully, in maybe in a few years to come, we will have something within the country here. But right now, South Africa is hosting a cluster of data centers for use by customers around the world. South Africa, Africa, and South America, and so on. So the Microsoft provides, Microsoft engineers provides 24/7 by 365 support. They have over 1 billion customers. They're servicing over 20 million businesses. They're in over 90 markets worldwide. 280 years of combined industry experience among their engineers in infrastructure, security, product development, global operations, etc. So yeah, it's safe hands, right? Microsoft they have been there, since our early childhood. For most of us, from the Windows 3.1 OS and so on. I mean, we've grown with them over the years. So they know what users need, and they know what they need to provide. And this service has been on for over 10 years now, and they are more than capable to help you protect your investment or your workloads that you have on the cloud. So the cloud really is around extending your IT infrastructure on premise, right? What do I mean by that? Okay, so you have your existing data center. You can choose to extend into the cloud, right? So there's a need to deploy new solutions, new applications on premise for use by your staff or your customers, right? So rather than purchase new hardware, the cloud is available, where you only just pay for what you use, right? So in our client today, unfortunately, we don't manufacture hardware here. If you need a very good high-end infrastructure, it has to be purchased from outside the country. And you can imagine the dollar rate as at today, right? It wasn't, the current exchange, it isn't what it was about 3-4 years ago, and over 8 years ago. So imagine you want to purchase a new hardware. You can imagine how much you'll be spending just to purchase the hardware, have it shipped over here, paying for annual support and maintenance, renew your license. And you can imagine the cost of this to the business. It's necessary to be able to run your applications on an infrastructure, but the investment you are making is huge. And, we're not even sure if the exchange rate will come down anytime soon. But what we are saying is that there's an alternative, which is the cloud, where you extend what you're able to have a hybrid cloud or connection between your on-premise data center and the cloud, where users who need to access applications, are transparently connected to the cloud. So they don't even know that the application or the server that is serving them is situated on the cloud. The cloud is ideal when you need to get your applications up and running fast. I mentioned earlier that you are looking at scalability. You want to scale based on, massive users that you've acquired in the past few months. Either you are advertising properly, your marketing teams are doing stuff, and they are getting customers on board to use that application. So it will scale. It will scale all of a sudden. So you don't want to be caught unawares where you have new customers and you are getting feedback within 2-3 months that they're not getting the value that they expect to be getting from this solution. So let me paint another scenario for you. You are in an industry where you have competitors, right? And somehow you think of a unique, innovative solution that you can bring on board that will help enhance your operations or help you make sales better or help you provide service, to your customers. And if you are going the traditional way, where you need to purchase hardware, right? So you would need to get your forex, your dollars, make that purchase. Okay, so that will take about 4 or 5 weeks to get to Nigeria, right? And then it will take a couple, maybe another 1 or 2 weeks before it is cleared and it is delivered to your office. And then you're talking about the transportation of delivering that hardware to your office. That's another cost. And this is set up. That's another cost. And it will increase the consumption of your resources in terms of power, in terms of cooling, in terms of manpower that you need to, or skilled person that you need to manage the hardware or the application that is running on it. So if you imagine that it takes you well over a month, let's say 2 to 3 months to get this application up and running, and then getting new customers on board. And you have a competition who is leveraging the cloud. Your competition, let's just say uncannily, they just somehow just come up with the same idea that you have, that you've come up with your innovative solutions. They also come up with it somehow, and they simply just get on Azure, turn on a machine on Azure within minutes, deploy the application. Maybe it takes about a week or two, and everything is tested, and they're up and running within 2 to 3 weeks. So who do you think will get to the customer faster? Who will capture the um, the market share of the market space for new customers to leverage on that solution? It's the person who is leveraging the cloud, who has been able to get the application up and running very quickly, and is now positioning this to existing and new customers. So by the time you come on board, maybe 2 or 3 months later, I mean, a lot of customers have already been captured by your competition. But we are saying this is not the way to go, right? The modern business is leveraging cloud infrastructure. Small businesses, corporate organizations, enterprises, everybody is jumping on board because of the need to get innovative solutions and applications up and running and being made available to the end customer, as soon as possible. And the beauty of this is that you are not paying for one hardware. You're not paying a bulk fee for the machine you are leveraging on Azure, right? You're only paying for what you use. And that's it, right? So where you would spend maybe about $3,000 or $4,000, as well as all the other costs that are identified, by the time it gets here, you're only probably going to spend about $100 to $200 for a machine that has the same capacity that you can get up and running very fast. And you can leverage the remaining $2,700. You can repurpose it for other areas of the business, right? Which is why this webinar is titled "How the Cloud Can Help You Save," help your business save money, right? And there's zero barrier to entry, right? So you can just jump on the cloud today without making a single payment, right? Jump on Azure, start up your application, start up your machines or whatever resources, databases you need, and only pay for what you have consumed at the end of the month. So it's a pay as you go situation, right? Pay only for what you use, right? So if you have an application that doesn't need to be online and available to your customers 24/7, maybe it's only for customers to just come in and use during business hours between 8 and 7 p.m. right? You can shut down your resources between the hours of 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. the next morning. Microsoft will not charge you for that period that your resources have been shut down. So that is, another way to ensure that you're able to optimize and get further cost savings. So assuming that you calculate $200 for a machine for the whole month, that means you're assuming it's running for 730 hours, and that means 24 hours for 31 days, right? You'll be paying 200. So if you're only running for 8 or 9 hours daily for 30 days, that's about 270 hours. So the cost savings you can get again from there is very, very, very significant, right? Which some companies do. We have some customers who are doing that, who are saying, no, we have applications that don't need to be accessed 24/7, and on the weekend, just from Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then the resource, the machine they are using is automatically shut down, and then we started in the morning. So you can imagine the how happy management will be when they see such significant savings coming in from the traditional data center, or what they have been spending in the past to ensure that they have applications up and running. So with Microsoft, you choose the combination that's right for you. Physical servers with Windows Server operating system, and of course you can virtualize them with Microsoft software like Hyper-V, and also leverage the cloud. So you have that spanning, extending your physical server infrastructure via virtualization and into the cloud. So what are some of the things that you can quickly leverage on the cloud? There's the storage part of it, which is very cheap. Maybe you just want to keep data there, or you want to leverage Azure backup, or disaster recovery that Azure provides. So let me start with storage. You probably are generating some kind of blob files, flat files, PDFs that you just need to keep somewhere, because maybe due to regulatory or compliance purposes, you are supposed to keep certain data for, upward of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years or more, right? It doesn't make sense to acquire new storage appliance just to keep redundant data that is just there doing nothing but just for the sole purpose of archiving. So you can imagine that appliance that should have been repurposed for something else, or you don't even need to acquire that in the first place, right? So once you notice that you need more storage, leverage the storage that comes, on the cloud. Think for about 1 terabyte of storage or so. So you'll be paying about $20 or less monthly, and it's based on what you use, right? So if you have 200 gig, you pay for 200 gig worth of storage space, storage capacity. When it goes to 500 gig, you pay for 500. When you pay for 1 terabyte, you pay for 1 terabyte of storage, which is why I'm saying that, Azure's model is pay for what you use. Pay for what you get. So you don't need to, it's not a scenario where you say, oh, I want 5 terabytes, and you pay a fee for 5 terabytes, and you're only using 200 gigabytes of it. No, if you're using 200 gigabytes, you only pay for 200 gigabytes. So you get easy economical storage that can scale as needed if you want to leverage Azure storage, right? And you can scale up or down easily to meet changing needs, right? So maybe after 5 years, there's a policy in place that data over 5 years, it should be automatically deleted. That will be done. So once it's deleted, that means that most likely your storage capacity will go down, and what you're paying is small. And then you're meeting your compliance registration needs. So if there's a legal suit tomorrow, and it requires some form of evidence, it could be a file, it could be a video footage, for those who need to be able to store footages of whatever is happening around their business premises. You're able to provide that evidence because you have that data, stored up, and that video footage was generated 4 years ago. So it's something you can easily call up, download, and present as evidence, if the need requires, rather than just keeping such data on premise and just have it redundant there. So you have appliance that is just consuming power, the cooling, everything that it's not an active data that users will access very often, right? So storage is another way that you can, leverage Azure. And then backup. So most organizations have backup in place now. Some organizations don't. For organizations that don't have, a backup solution in place, you can leverage Azure Backup Server. Azure Backup Server is a free backup solution from Microsoft. They're not charging for it. Just install it, backup locally, and backup to the cloud, right? While other backup solutions, Net Backup, Veeam, and so on, you will pay, you would purchase it, you would pay for license, right? And you need to buy some kind of hardware as well to install your backup solution. You'd also need to have some storage appliance where your backup data will be going into. And then maybe you are doing short term and you're also doing long term, which is backup to tape. By the way, backup to tape is very archaic now. But let's assume that, that is the way, some businesses are still going. You can imagine the cost of purchasing the hardware appliance, like I said earlier, the cost of purchasing storage appliance, the cost of purchasing tape drives, tape appliance, right? And you're not purchasing the tape appliance alone. You have to purchase the tape backup media, right? And after a while, you will need to change this media again. So we don't manufacture them. You have to purchase them and you have to pay dollars. So maybe when you purchased it a year ago or 6 months ago at 750, you go back and purchase it at 950 in future. But God forbid, let's hope it doesn't get there. But what if it gets there? That means you're paying, the business is paying through the nose to have these backup solutions. And backup to tape has not been what's the word? It's not a confident way for the business to believe that they have long-term backup. Sorry about that. Just a small break in transmission. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about backup, where if you don't have backup solutions in place and you're thinking of doing the traditional backup, setting up a solution in your on-premise data center, those are things you'd have to acquire at a huge cost, right? But leveraging the cloud for your storage needs, as your backup destination for long-term backup, is the way to go, right? And with the Azure backup solution or software that Microsoft provides at zero cost, you can back up your files to, back it up locally and back it up to your secondary location, which in this case is Azure. Of course, the whole idea is to be able to quickly restore files if they are accidentally deleted or lost, and maybe that's not even the case. Maybe your critical on-premise application, files there have been attacked by malware or ransomware. You can imagine how that, what states that will put the business in. The business cannot do anything because the hackers have put you in a dilemma where they are requesting a lot of money from you. And of course, it's in dollars, not in naira, where you probably even need to get some kind of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to pay them. But if you have your data safely backed up on the cloud somewhere, you can either recall it down and reinstall your server again, or you can just recover to the cloud, spin up your machines on the cloud, have your users network routed to the cloud, and the business is back to normalcy is restored in the business operation within minutes, at most just a few hours. Right. So those are things that you need to look at and consider for the future, especially as we have high internet speed in Nigeria. It makes Nigeria an attractive location for would-be hackers, when they're able to throw their attacks and, they're getting responses to the attacks that they throw to your servers, and they somehow gain access, and the story will change. But if you have your backup copies safely stored somewhere apart from on-premise, you can quickly call that and get the business back up and running. And then there's also the disaster recovery solution. So we can say it's still some kind of backup, but this refers to maybe when a disaster happens, in terms of the data center, catches fire, or you have some flooding that affects your data center, natural disasters. We've not seen so much of these natural disasters that have been happening in other regions of the world, like the typhoon, the hurricane, the tsunamis, but the flooding that we're having now is becoming a clear and present danger, and if the flooding happens to get to you, I mean, it can get into your data center. I don't think, anybody has some kind of, data center that is waterproof. It can get in there, damage your power supply, and have an attendant effect of affecting your entire investment in there. Also, you could have a situation where there are protests that turn violent, and for some reason your company is targeted by these violent persons, and they come within your premises and they set it on fire. Your whole infrastructure is gone. Your backup that you have on premise is gone. Okay, so you have your tape backup media, but for some reason you've not been testing it. So even if you want to test it, where is the hardware that you need to restore to right now? It's all gone. So your tape media is just there because you cannot recover to anywhere, and the business is in a limbo. Let's hope that the business can recover, and if it can recover, maybe by some magic that happens. But you and I know that, no magic like that can happen. Your infra is gone, the business is zero. Right. So with disaster recovery, you're looking at a real-time situation where, as changes are happening in your environment, that change is replicated almost immediately, in near real time to your Azure site, which is your secondary location in this case. So you have almost up-to-date data that is available, should in case a disaster happens, you can quickly fail over the business over to the secondary data center, which in this case is Azure. And like we said, you're not paying a bulk fee for hosting a machine on Azure. If you say you're not going to use Azure and you want to use a secondary site, maybe you want to build another data center, you can imagine the cost of that. Then you need to buy almost identical hardware with what you have on your primary site. That is another cost, and then of course your ISP that will give you bandwidth to ensure that the data can be replicated. You also have to think of that cost. So there is a whole lot of cost involved there. But for disaster recovery, you're only paying for what you use. I think if you are protecting just a single machine, for instance, I think it's about $20 monthly. In addition to the cost of the disk capacity that you have of the machine that you are protecting. That's all. So the business is able to pay for that every month because it is very easy and convenient to pay such low amounts. And you're having the same service that you will get, if you have a disaster recovery secondary site location somewhere. So this is a wake-up call for businesses. If you already have that solution, you might wish to consider Azure, right? And reduce, get some cost savings, reduce this overhead, everything with regards to cost that you are generating, and repurpose that extra cost savings to anything else. If you don't have a disaster recovery solution in place, Azure is the place to look at, where you're not, you have no business thinking about power, you have no business thinking about cooling. All you're just doing is, setting up your Azure as your disaster recovery solution, do some installations and configurations, and bam, within a day or two, you've started protecting your on-premise workloads. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated and it's not expensive. You can also host, your web applications. Like I mentioned earlier, most of the hosting providers that you have just give you a certain, you say you want to host your website, they just give you a small space out of a shared environment, and you're paying for that. Like I mentioned at the beginning, what if the business grows, the number of users you have grow? They are not able to scale dynamically, right? And this will affect the business. So what we are saying is that there are services available on Azure that will, there's an automation in place, there's a monitoring in place. Once it detects increase in traffic, it will automatically scale to meet that demand, right? So those are things that a lot of businesses are leveraging on because of the fact of, that they can get scalability, having migrated to Azure, and they're enjoying it today. Because we've had customers who we've spoken to who raised that concern that, oh, I have customers, at certain period of the day when the peak is high, or they're trying to make transactions, they try to log in, it takes almost 1 minute, they try to make a transaction. So the customer is frustrated, they are frustrated because they can lose customers. But after transitioning to the cloud, that has become a thing on the past. So they're enjoying that, and they're enjoying it at a fraction of the cost of what they were, leveraging on the other cloud provider, as well as um, being able to scale down, up and down, as they needed. Also, you can host your, migrate your on-premise workloads to the cloud. So the hardware that you purchased 5 years ago that you are still using today has most likely reached its end of life, and the usual thing to do is to buy another hardware to replace that. So if your hardware has reached end of life, or has reached end of support or something, please consider just migrating what you have on premise, doing a lift and shift of what you have and taking that to Azure straight. And then you pay at the end of the first month what you have consumed. That's all. So you don't need to be trying to, oh, this machine is always restarting unexpectedly. It will hang, it will do this. Yes, it will do that because the manufacturers have told you that this thing has an end of life and it has reached it, but the business will still, please, just try and get yourself out of that quagmire and adopt this platform, So it's easy to do a lift and shift of what you have, the way it is installed or deployed on your on-premise. A lift and shift can be done. It will just lift that everything from the OS, and just migrate it to the cloud, and when you start up that machine, exactly the way you have it on premise, all the configurations, log files, data files, everything is still in place. You will just redirect your users to connect to your new machine that is running on the cloud. It's as easy as that. So, so you can host your, existing line of business application on the cloud. Either it's a virtualized environment or non-virtualized. Yes, I am.
Yeah, the question of the data center being in North Africa has been attended, correct?
Sorry?
There was a question whether Microsoft had data centers in North Africa.
No, South Africa. South Africa. Maybe they are considering in North Africa. Yeah, but it's not active yet. South Africa is still the active one that we have. So right now in North Africa, no, not available yet.
Instability, correct. I remember. Security, yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so yeah, backing up your data is another way you can leverage the cloud, which I already explained prior to now. So the question is your data backed up? Right, so many businesses lose critical data when primary data storage becomes damaged or files are accidentally deleted or attacked, encrypted somewhere. So the best thing to do is to recover that data from a backup, right? And who knows whether the backup that you have on premise could also have been hacked and encrypted, right? And that means that the backup of your backup is is also gone. So you are stuck, right? So Effective data backup often requires significant capital investment in hardware and backup media, which I mentioned earlier. You are going to spend a lot of money, to achieve the same kind of, backup solution that Azure would offer you at a fraction of the cost, right? So businesses are looking at ways to save money. So if you go to the business, the key stakeholders, I'd say, look, let's change this way that we operate, in terms of backing up data. Let's change this and that by just leveraging the cloud. They would ask you why. You would say, this is how much we spend monthly. But by the time we start leveraging the cloud, this is the potential. We can get up to 60 or 70% savings. And you can be sure that the executive decision makers, will be ready to listen to what you're saying, ask more questions, and then make a decision on there, because they're all about ensuring that the business is making profit, and not losses. So you can get simple, reliable backup in the cloud with Azure, which I mentioned. Back up your files to the cloud. Avoid capital expense for your storage hardware and media. You can scale up or down as you need and pay for what you use. And then, of course, you can get enterprise-grade data protection. So that's easy, just a simple architecture there. You have your Azure backup software installed on premise, which is free. And then, of course, this is integrated with Azure Cloud to take backup to the cloud periodically, every day, once a week, once a month, based on the company's backup policy. Reduce unexpected downtime. 40% of businesses hit by a disaster never reopen. So you have an insurance policy for your business. Good. But do you have an insurance policy for your data and your infrastructure? If it is destroyed, what is the next step? What would you do if you hadn't planned prior to a disaster happening? Right? So building and hosting a disaster recovery solution is too expensive for most small and mid-sized businesses, and even enterprise and corporate organizations. Everybody wants to save money. Everybody needs to save money, right? So if you can leverage a platform that will guarantee that you can save cost and ensure that in the event of a disaster, you are able to recover, I mean, why wouldn't you take advantage of, of that? So having such a, disaster recovery strategy in place will give the business peace of mind that you are still open for business, even if disaster strikes. So this service that is used for disaster recovery is called the Microsoft Azure Site Recovery. It's a wonderful service that is simply turned on. You deploy it on Azure. You install some agents, on premise, and voila! Immediately you get your data is being replicated to Azure real time, and then you can monitor it. You can monitor the state of the replication. You can see the health of your servers. You can do what we call the test failover, right? That test failover will show you, will give you a scenario where if something actually happens, will this server start up and work the way it's expected, and work the way it's expected that it should? So you have that peace of mind to do test failovers from time to time. Maybe you can do that twice a month, once a month, twice a quarter, whatever the business demands. So your IT person would go there, do a test recovery, log into the machine, be it a Linux machine, be it a Windows machine, log in via remote desktop, check that, okay, this application is running, I can start my application, is running, I can connect to it, and then once you have that, you've tested it, you simply delete those failover instances, and have that recorded somewhere that you've done a test failover, so that when a disaster happens, by the time you do, you are 99.9% sure that when you do a full failover, right, it will work the way it should, because you've been doing, repeated test, automated test failover, in the past months. And of course, you have greater peace of mind with ongoing testing and monitoring, which I just explained. So disaster recovery in the cloud with Microsoft Azure, in this case, you are using Azure as your DR site, your secondary site. You have automated physical and virtual machine protection and replication. So you are not limited to protecting virtual machines. You can protect physical machines. You can protect hypervisors like Hyper-V and VMware. And of course, you can do your remote health monitoring. Just log into your portal from anywhere around the world at any time, see what is happening, everything is working. The state of the replication and the instances on Azure is green, right? And of course, no impact recovery plan. Doing your test failover will not impact what you are running on premise, right? Because it is run in a segregated environment that doesn't affect what you have running on premise. So be rest assured that if you do test failover, it won't affect the machines that you have on premise, right? And of course, if you look at that simple schematic diagram, you have your primary site, your Windows server, Linux server, then you have your Azure cloud, just a simple orchestration and replication that is done, and voila, your data is being replicated regularly. Now, on-premise versus the cloud. So let's do a bit of comparison here. So in terms of capital expense, on-premise, there's high capital expense cost, in terms of your rack space. You're talking about power, cooling, you're spending a lot there. But if you're leveraging the cloud, there's low capital expense. You're not buying any hardware. You're not buying any cooling system. So the expense there, the capital expense leveraging the cloud is far lesser than doing same on premise. IT staff on premise, you need highly skilled IT department. For your cloud, IT department is lean because Microsoft already has a lot of experts available to deal with the backend infrastructure. See it's running very well for their customers to use. Installation fees on premise, you would, like I mentioned earlier, hardware needs to be installed and additional staff contractors fees will apply, licenses and so on. Low cost installation, no need for you to install any hardware. Licensing, you pay for license fees, software maintenance, operational costs for support and upgrades. In a cloud situation, what you have is a pay as you go model. Maintenance and updates, on-premise updating features and functionality are maintained internally. Cloud updates are maintained by the cloud provider. Total cost of ownership, on-premise, high upfront and continuous maintenance fees prolong your TCO. Fast TCO savings can be validated with the cloud. Disaster recovery, redundancy is very expensive and typically afforded by large enterprises. The cloud in this case the cost is much lower, offers redundancy, and is not only for large enterprises. Small, medium businesses, and corporate organizations can take advantage of disaster recovery, leveraging Azure as their cloud platform of choice. So on Azure is an open ecosystem. Do not worry, Microsoft is in leverages is a partnership with a lot of OEM, original equipment manufacturers, original software owners, and even open source solutions across open source databases like MySQL, MariaDB, Mongo, Cosmo. Of course, their own SQL server is also available. You can leverage Oracle database. You can leverage SAP data, and you can choose your operating system from Windows to Linux distros, from CentOS, SUSE Linux, BSD, Ubuntu, Debian. You can leverage a lot of them. So they are available there, just by click of a button, you can create a machine on Azure, and this OS, any of the OS would have been installed for you. For your development, if you have developers in-house, they can also leverage these solutions that are available on Azure, from WordPress, Joomla, Node.js framework, or Stack, PHP, Java, JavaScript, and so on. They're all available. Tooling DevOps solution, Eclipse, Visual Studio, Puppet Labs, System Center. Azure also has its own Azure DevOps, and also you can leverage GitHub Actions. You know, GitHub is a service that is a repository service that has also been acquired by Microsoft. So if you're looking at DevOps, you can leverage GitHub Actions. I can tell you that it's very easy to use, and it's very sweet. It will give you what you want. And based on feedback that people who are leveraging GitHub Actions are saying, it's a very nice tool or service to have. So you can leverage that to build and deploy your code to Azure infrastructure, in terms of whether it's infrastructure as a service like your machines, or platform as a service, like cloud native infra, like containers, app services, Kubernetes clusters, and so on. So you can push your code, you can build and deploy your code from these DevOps tools. Application templates, also a lot of third-party tools that are available. Azure supports them. You can easily just spin them up and use them on the cloud. For your traditional data center, you have the responsibility from managing your hardware up all the way to your applications. From the hardware, if you're virtualizing it, the OS there, you're thinking of securing and patching it. You're talking of your network, firewall, your data generated, and your applications. And for Microsoft Azure, you have infrastructure as a service, which virtual machine falls into. So the hardware and virtualization is the responsibility of Microsoft. You don't need to worry your head about that. But the OS you deploy, it could be your Windows server, it could be your Linux server, your virtual network, the way you configure it is up to you, right? Cloud services, so which is platform as a service. You say you want a platform as a service that is already running Linux OS. So it's not up to you to deploy your OS. You just tell Azure what you want. All it will just give you is credentials to connect to that infrastructure, upload your code or whatever, configure it to your taste, and have access to your applications. It's as simple as that. Websites, leverage website platforms. Like I said, there's app service that are containers where all you're just bringing is your code, either via FTP or deploying through DevOps, right? So all you're just bringing is your web application and your existing data from where it's currently residing. That's all. And then, of course, your mobile application is also catered for. Yeah, you can use mobile services on Azure. Run deploy your mobile applications as well as your data as well. So from the traditional center to Azure mobile services, the focus is on application for you, the customer. So they are taking away more responsibility in terms of managing hardware, virtualization, OS, as you go from left to right. So all you are just bringing to the environment is your code, maybe your PHP, your JavaScript, existing data that you have in a database that you are leveraging. You just bring it there, configure whatever you need to configure, and then wow, your application is online and ready to go. So why Microsoft? Like I said, Microsoft has been there. I mean, one way or another, everybody is using some kind of solution or software that Microsoft provides. So they are a household name, right? So they're also a single vendor across all of your IT. You'll be leveraging Windows Server OS. You'll be leveraging Windows client on your laptop systems. So you can leverage them on your hardware, either on site or in the cloud, right? Microsoft is also a single point of support for infrastructure OS services. So if you have issues, right from using your Windows Server or using other Microsoft software as a service, online, email, ERP solutions, applications. So Microsoft is one single body that will be able to provide you that single point of support for all your needs. They have the experience, they have the tenured experience over the years, and they have the credibility as an enterprise to be able to deliver and take care of your investment on the cloud. So there is a single platform for all your needs. If you're looking for IaaS and PaaS, they are there, they are available to cater for all your needs. I just showed you the open ecosystem, all the things that you can get. So those are just a subset. They can't put everything here. They have millions of applications, you know, that they are supporting on their platform, right? So whatever you're looking for, you just go there, look for it, and just deploy. That's all. And of course, they are the best cloud platform for Microsoft workloads. Yes, because they are the owners of Windows Server, Windows client software. So you have other cloud providers who will also be leveraging Microsoft workloads for their customer. But the question is, who do you think would offer you a better price? You know, if I'm in competition with somebody else and he's using my solution to service customers, I'm at liberty to offer that that software to my customers at a lower rate than my competition, right? So, of course, it says it all here. They're the best cloud platform for your Microsoft workloads. And of course, they have the engineers to provide the required support that you need there. Great. So that's it with the slide. But who are we? We are Lotus Beta Analytics. We focus on provision of IT solutions and services. We are CSP direct partners for a lot of customers, ranging from the SMB space, the small business, the corporates, you know, all the way to the enterprise. We have very well over 50 engineers. We have offices in Lagos and Abuja and in Canada as well. We are also competent partners because we've achieved all these competencies that you've seen here. You know, they're all gold competencies from cloud productivity, data platform, data center, messaging, cloud platform, etc. So our goal is to provide our customers with the best value. We provide high-level expertise with long-term Microsoft professionals that we have in-house who are committed to meeting the dynamic needs of any organization of any size. We don't discriminate. Even if you are a 5, the size of your company is just 5. We don't discriminate. We service all customers. All customers are important to us. We are customer obsessed, right? We do not discriminate. As long as you are looking for a service, we are ready to provide a service that will give you value. And of course, bottom line is that our focus is ensuring that you are happy and you are getting the value from utilizing Microsoft solutions. So we are not just entirely around Azure. You know, we spread across different Microsoft services, solutions, and products that they offer. So in light of this, we are asking that you take advantage based on what I've discussed with you today. Look at ways to save your business. You might wish to consider another strategy for your backup, or if you don't have disaster recovery in place, or you want to leverage on storage solutions. Fantastic. We even have a visitor management solution, you know, that you can deploy for your business to use to help you manage visitors that come to your environment. And we can deploy this on Azure for you, right? And we are even happy to give you the first month for free, right? So you can even test it and see that it works for your business at no extra cost to you, right? So what we are saying is that if you are interested, or if you wish to take it up, divert from your existing backup solution, you want to try out Azure Backup or disaster recovery with site recovery or host your web application, we're happy to do a POC for you, right? At zero cost to you, you know, or if you just want to migrate, we are happy to give you the first month. We are happy to invest, you know, a certain amount of money for your first month so that you can enjoy and see the value that you'll be getting there. Also, we are ready to help migrate what you have on premise, right, to the cloud. especially like I said earlier, if your platform, your infrastructure is nearing end of life or has already gone way beyond its end of life, don't let it get to that stage where the machine would refuse to start up one day. Get on the cloud today. We are ready to help you migrate what you have into the cloud and partner with you on that journey, right? And helping you to transition from your on-premise data center to the cloud. And we're always available to provide support to you as well. We provide support at zero cost to you. We do proactive and reactive support. Sometimes we'll help you go into your environment. How can we help you save costs for that? How can we help you, secure your environment much better? How can we do this? So we do that assessment, come back to you and say, this is what we've seen. Let us implement it, so that you're not surprised in the future when you actually are subjected to attack and stuff happens. We can imagine what it can cost the business. So our offering again is that we are hand holding you on this journey, and we're ready to do a POC for you. If you're happy with that, you can reach out to us. Just send you a proposal. Again, it's at zero cost to you. Either you want to implement a backup solution, you want to do some kind of storage solution, you want to do a disaster recovery solution. We are saying that implementing that, as a POC for you is at zero cost. We will take care of the Azure and everything. You don't need to pay. All you need to see that this thing will work for my business, and that's it. We're good to go. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very, very much. If you have any questions at this time, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you so much. You can unmute your mic if you want to speak, or just raise your hand, or just type in the chat window. Let me just address your question quickly. Thank you. Okay, any question from anyone? In case anybody is trying to speak, you can just unmute your mic. If you're not clear about something, you have concerns, let me know. And if you don't have questions now, maybe you can think of something, please feel free to hit me up. My email is Ayodele. I'll type it in the chat window, Ayodele@Lotus Beta Analytics, or you can reach out to Ayomide, who will also type his email out here, or Winifred, who will also type out an email here, or maybe phone number, so that we can have a one-on-one session. If you have concerns, I'm happy to jump on a call with you to discuss what your concerns are, and whatever you need to go forward on your journey to Azure. So thank you very much once again. Ayomide, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ayodele. It's always a pleasure to have you on the call. I keep learning new things on Microsoft Azure from time to time, right? So thank you very much once again. I just have a little question, right? So I have two organizations that I've spoken with, and they they say that they want to use their on-premise infrastructure. So my question is, what do you think is the likely cause of organizations wanting to use on-premise infrastructure as against the cloud?
Okay, so one is, so maybe they just acquired new hardware, right? So it makes sense for them to enjoy what they've paid for, right? Which is fine. I mean, I just paid for something, and I can't transition to the cloud tomorrow. Let me enjoy this thing. It's fine, but in the future, you need to consider extending what you have to the cloud, right? So maybe a customer is on premise who have just acquired infrastructure. They are not able to do that now. but they can do so in the future, which is fine. It's an investment. Or you can just, if you're not able to shift what you have on now because you just acquired hardware, well, you can do the backup. You can do the backup solution, or you can do the disaster recovery one. Have a disaster recovery strategy in place, helping you protect what you have on premise to the cloud, right? That is another way to leverage Azure. So it's not necessary to move what you have to the cloud right now, especially if you just invested in hardware infrastructure, right? That's one. Some customers will say, oh, due to regulatory reasons, we cannot afford to host our data on the cloud, which is understandable, right? But while you can have your front end and your back end application hosted on the cloud, via a site-to-site connection, you can connect to your database on premise, because that database is actually the data that they are concerned about. So you can have a connectivity of your application running on Azure, which is available for anybody to access at any time, and from anywhere. And if it needs to make a call to your database service, it will just simply do so on a secured connection to your on-premise database, be it SQL Server, be it Oracle, be it open source databases, anything, right? So there are so many ways that you can leverage Azure, even if you're on-premise, which are some of the things I just mentioned here. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, very much well. And one final question, right? So I also had a client who wanted to implement Azure, and he said that they would still want to keep what they have. I don't know how he said it like this, that they have some infrastructure, just like you've explained. I think that is actually one of the challenges, the cost which they have already imputed into acquiring the hardwares, that is on premise. And, the organization is, not willing to really approve another budget for something else when it is carrying the same name of hosting. So he said he wanted to implement Azure. But then he was like, is there any way that they can, match the two sides? For instance, having what they already have on Azure, and maybe having part of this money, the investment, like having part of it, sold, and putting the other half on Azure. What does it really look like?
Okay, so the business may decide to host maybe their more critical application on premise, and just decide to, so that those critical applications will have more of the hardware resources to themselves, and put the less critical line of business applications on the cloud, right? So in terms of performance, everybody's happy. Your applications on premise are using the hardware, maybe it's your 256 gigabyte RAM and 32 core. So you have about 3 mission critical apps on premise that are enjoying that to themselves. And then your maybe 4 or 5 other less critical ones, you can take it to the cloud, right? And be leveraging the cloud from there. So I already mentioned that you can extend your on-premise, data center to the cloud. So there's a seamless connection there, via a site-to-site connection, where users, while they're in the office premises, right, they can connect to those applications on Azure, and they would feel that those applications are still on premise. And if they need to work from anywhere, a point-to-site implementation can be done. If they need to access those applications outside of the office space, right? Maybe they need to travel out of the country, or travel out of state, and they can't come to the office, but they need to keep on working. There can be a point-to-site setup where they just download a VPN client, and just when they are ready on their internet, they can simply just connect to their workloads on Azure, and work as if they are right in the office, right? So that is another way to look at it. Also, you can leverage Azure monitoring solutions, right? Azure monitoring solutions so it's a solution that helps you monitor all your workloads. How is it running? What is happening? disk space are running out, this RAM is being overutilized, this and that. So you can have that visibility with Azure Monitor, which is another service available on Azure, right? It all is simply does is collect logs from all the system, and it can present it to you in a manner, you know, on a dashboard to say, this is the state of the infrastructure you have, both on-premise and on the cloud, right? Also, there is also Azure Security, right? You can leverage on Azure Security to protect the workloads that you have on-premise. There is the Defender for cloud, there is Web Application Firewall. There is a whole range of suite that you don't have to be on the cloud, but that you can leverage to protect your investments that you have, you know, on-premise, right? So you may not have an internal firewall, but you can deploy a firewall on the cloud, such that users will be routed through that firewall to your on-premise workloads, you know, especially if they are working from outside of the company space, right? So those are some of the ways that you can leverage the Azure cloud if you have something on premise. Okay, I see a question here from Ahmed. We can't access this form. We get it. Okay, Ayomide, that's a question for you. All right. Okay, so there are so very many ways that, you know, I'm happy. I think we, like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time on this call. I'm happy to have a one-on-one call with the attendees here, and, you know, further expatiate on other areas that they can get the benefit and value that Azure offers. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you everyone also for staying back. I do appreciate everyone's time on the call. So the survey link is in the chat, so we just click on it. So here on the survey link, we do this event from time to time. Microsoft sponsored, and they are telling us to make people around you know, space to understand more about Azure. So one of the benefits is a free technical consultation, a free cloud PC, and it also goes with the additional which we are also providing, which is free backups, just to show you how it works, you know, for a while, and modernization. Maybe you have some solutions you want to move to the cloud, you want to look at how it looks like. Some people are already on the cloud, however, they're spending so much. And we've said it from time to time that you will spend so much less on Microsoft Azure, while some people most likely, most of the time, says that's actually not true. But we've proven it a time and a time again to many of our clients, and they have finally, you know, approved and they've moved with Microsoft Azure. However, the point there is, because some do not really know how to, you know, manipulate the Microsoft Azure platform, they tend to just go there, host their stuff, and, you know, all their credit is gone, and they just say no. I just have 200 credits and it's gone, and they're charging my card, you know, stuff like that, right? So we try to have sessions where we explain to people that Microsoft Azure is actually cheap compared to other cloud hosting platforms, because most of the solutions which is used on the cloud, most of them belong to Microsoft, right? And Microsoft already has, you know, since they are the ones who have the underlying infrastructure, why wouldn't they be the ones who you know, more cost effective? Yeah, so it's good that when you want to move to the cloud, you move with a partner, you move with a technical advisor, you move with someone who most probably hold your hands, you know, as an expert who is on that, you know, platform, who has been, you know, making use of it. And like I said, one or two, you know, people who have, you know, engaged in that discussion with us, who've done the cost calculation, we did everything, and they really saw that it was nice before it was approved through. So we are looking at it from the perspective of the organization, who the members of board will approve, and what really will make them approve it, right? Because you don't want to just come and tell them you just implemented an Azure, let me say a cloud. Yeah, you just moved to the cloud yesterday on a platform, and tomorrow you're just coming to say, oh, we are looking for a different cloud platform. It seems as if you, who is the maybe head of IT, is not serious. Yeah, but when you come with points which is valid, stuff like we are actually going to spend so much if we continue in long term with this. Let's say we can save up to 15% in the next 3 quarters, right? An organization wants to hear that they're going to save money, right? So when we see, okay, we could save up to 15%. So why do we want to spend so much under these 3 quarters that we are still going to run? So they won't quickly want to approve and implement that so that they can have part of that money to do something else. There are many other overhead, expenses that are made in the organization. Yeah. So that's what the conversation we'll be having. We just have 5 minutes left to this meeting to close, and I've dropped the link. Please go to the link and let me know how you feel about this meeting. We took our time to make it possible, and we are glad that you're here. So we've achieved what we wanted to achieve by your presence here. However, we want you to also achieve by going to the link and say, okay, this is how I feel about this event. Maybe you guys can continue next time. Maybe you want to have a session with us. Just let us know with the link. And also you can, come back to me. My email is in the chat. Let me drop that. Okay, that's in the chat. Just say, okay, I want to have this, but the survey link already has more of the information you might want to fill. You want a POC, you want anything, just let us know there. If you want us to come back with this kind of information next time, just let us know there. If it's whatever it is, right? Even if it's just technical consultation, if you just I want to know how much it will cost my business to do this Microsoft Azure. You want to have that kind of conversation. That will help you to make the choice. Yeah, you can have that conversation with us. You can just drop me an email. Any which ways works for us, right? So we'll have to meet you in the via the survey. And if you also want us to just give you a call, let me know. My email is also there available for everyone. So thank you very much, each and every one of us who is here. I really owe everyone so much. Applause once again to everyone for making it here today. Thank you once again, and do have a lovely day. Enjoy your work. See you via the survey. Thank you very much, Umoto Sean. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me end the recording now.